Joining us now, Republican presidential candidate, former UN ambassador, and former Governor Nikki Haley. Governor, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
All right, I want to start with France. These images disturbing overnight, this word of an attack on a mayor's home and, hundreds now arrested. When you were ambassador to the UN, you had your differences with Emmanuel Macron, but knowing that the U.S. has walked through similar turmoil in recent years, any words of advice or wisdom to the president there or to the people of France?
Well, he's going to have to make sure that he listens to his people, and he's got to bring calm. It's a tough situation. I mean, we've seen that happen in the United States, and at the end of the day, what wins is law and order and making sure that people understand what you're doing and how you're doing it, and so we'll see how this plays out.
All right, let's turn to our brand new Fox News polling. Put this up on the screen. Former President Trump has actually gained in this latest polling. You sit at 3%. So the president has called you disloyal. He's questioned your honor. He is steamrolling at this point the rest of the field. What is your path forward to this nomination?
I think that we can look at past presidential elections and understand that national polls just don't matter right now. I mean, we've got a debate in August. We've got a debate in September. We've got a debate in October. I have qualified to be on the debate stage. Having been 3% in a 5-way governor's race, I know that this is all about hard work. And I will tell you, we have done 30 events plus in New Hampshire. We've done 25 in Iowa. And the people of New Hampshire, Iowa, and South Carolina and Nevada will tell you it is not about what the press or what the national polls say. It's not about how many people show up at your rallies. It's how many times you show up and how hard of the questions you answer and how many hands you shake. And that's what we're doing. We're not doing shortcuts. We're doing it the old-fashioned way, the hard way. And I am confident that by fall, you're going to see those numbers are completely different than what they are right now.
All right, let's talk through some of the things you will face on the campaign trail and the debate stage. The Supreme Court decisions this week, Democrats actually say they show the court is dangerous. Former President Trump is out there saying, this shows my gift to the American people, the 3 justices I put into the court. Let's get some reaction on a couple of these. The first is that web designer who didn't want to do custom designs for things that conflict with her religious beliefs, including same-sex marriage. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries said this: no person or business should be given a license to discriminate. That's exactly what today's wrong-headed Supreme Court decision will unleash. Court also struck down the president's student loan forgiveness plan, also ended race-based admissions into college. ATF President Randy Weingarten, reacting to both of those, said, between the affirmative action case and the decision on student debt, the court has decided that if you or your family has the ability and means, you can succeed. But if you're a struggler or a striver, you are on your own. So the president, the left, saying these decisions are not good for real Americans, people in protected classes, black and brown citizens, and potential applicants. Is there a danger here that Republicans run a risk? You won Dobbs last year. You win these legal battles, but they wind up hurting you politically.
This was a fantastic win for individual liberty and freedom. I think whether you look at the fact that, first of all, the Democrats are upset because things didn't go their way, but the people won. This is about empowering people and their rights. Whether it's making sure you're not picking winners and losers on whose loans you forgive, or whether it's the fact that you're deciding who gets into college based on a race that you can't control, whether it's the web designer. Look, gay people have the right to marry the same way a web designer has the right to say, according to their religion, they don't want to do it. So the people won in these cases. So I don't think this hurts us at all. I think that the liberals will try and use this against us. But I think at the end of the day, what the Supreme Court showed is regardless of where you're born and raised, what color you are, what gender you are going to be able to have individual freedom. And that's a win for the United States of America. It's a win for people, and I think we should all celebrate it.
All right, one of the other contenders in your race, former Vice President Pence, was here last week on Fox News Sunday. He reiterated his call that everybody in the field on the GOP side should commit to a nationwide ban on abortion at 15 weeks. You said, not realistic to tell people you could do it. You don't have the votes in the House and Senate. If you got a red wave in 24 and you're a President Haley, what would you agree to at a national level if you had the votes? Where would you draw the line? Or do you think a national ban is appropriate?
First of all, Shannon, we do have to be honest with the American people, and I don't think that they've been honest with them on that. First of all, I will say I'm absolutely pro-life, unapologetically, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children. Having said that, I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice any more than I am pro-life. I think that we have to humanize this situation and stop demonizing it. But in order to get a federal law, you have to have 6 years. So we've got a long way to go. We need to look at this and say, how do we make sure we save as many babies as we can and support as many moms as we can? And so in order to do that, we're going to have to say, how do we get 60 votes? And I think that we should find consensus on saying, let's not have late-term abortion, consensus on the fact that if doctors and nurses don't believe in abortion, they shouldn't have to perform it. Consensus on the fact that let's encourage more adoptions that are good quality adoptions. Consensus on the fact that we should have contraception should be available. And consensus that no state law should put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty for having an abortion. Let's start there. And whatever 60 Senate votes come to, whether that's 15 weeks, I absolutely would sign it.
Okay, let's talk foreign policy, a big part of your resume. You gave a speech on China today with a lot of warnings in there, talking about how past and current administrations have, in your estimation, bungled this relationship and lost important ground. Our next guest who's coming up, like your husband, has worn the uniform, and Congressman Jake Auchincloss says that you're not the right person to speak to the issue of China. He says this, you shouldn't suggest that China's military in any respects has gotten stronger than the U.S., that you served in an administration that left the U.S. in a weaker position, that cozied up to President Xi, and that you would bring back failed foreign policy. So, knowing he's coming up, what do you say to that critique?
I mean, God bless them, because if you look at the military situation, they now have the largest naval fleet in the world. They have 340 ships. We have 293. They're going to have 400 in 2 years. We won't even have 350 in 2 decades. They have started developing hypersonic missiles. We are just now getting started. They are modernizing their military. Our military is taking gender pronoun classes. You look at what they're doing on cyber, artificial intelligence, space. They're ahead of us. So, no, we have some work to do, and we do need to strengthen our military, and we have to make sure we're right. China has been preparing for war with us for decades. And the way we have to deal with China is not look at it tomorrow, because if we keep waiting to deal with them tomorrow, they will deal with us today. We have to deal with them diplomatically. We have to deal with them economically. We have to deal with them militarily. But from a domestic standpoint, first of all, let's make sure that they stop buying up U.S. farmland. They've bought 400,000 acres near our military installations. Let's get the infiltration out of our universities, where they're paying millions of dollars to spread propaganda. Let's make sure they stop bringing the fentanyl across the border. If that means we end normal trade relations with them to do that, we do that until they stop killing Americans. And let's stop the lobbying that has happened from Chinese companies that are just a front for the Chinese Communist Party. Those like Huawei and Tencent and Alibaba, they need to stop lobbying America. And I think that we have some work to do when it comes to economically. They're stealing $600 billion of intellectual property from us. That's how they just came out with the 5th generation fighter jet, and we handed it to them on a silver platter. We have the Commerce Department that has a list of sensitive technologies that should not be sold to China, yet it's not a blacklist. And the Biden administration approved 70% of those licenses last year. And militarily, we better get to work. We have to build a strong military. We have to stop all of these favored contracts to military companies that shouldn't be getting them. We've got to cut out the bureaucracy and the red tape, and we've got to get to work to strengthen our military. So, no, we've got a lot to do with China, and we've got to get it done today.
All right, quickly before we go, I want to get some clarification on where you are in birthright citizenship. This, notion that the 14th Amendment is guaranteed. People who are born here are U.S. citizens. A spokesperson of yours said that you oppose birthright citizenship for those who enter the country illegally, but of course this is for people who are born here. What's your position?
For the 5 million people who've entered our country illegally, I am against birthright citizenship. For those that are in this country legally, of course, I think we go according to the Constitution, and that's fine. But it's the illegal immigrations that we have to make sure that just because they get here, if they have a child, you're just building on the problems that have if you're making those children citizens and then allowing them to stay because of that.
Okay, so people who come here illegally and then have a child here, you say that child should not have the guaranteed citizenship.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right, Governor, great to see you. We'll see you out there on the campaign trail. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Shannon.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.